At the beginning of the year, Pastor Walt introduced us to the spiritual disciplines. By now, you've probably struggled putting some of those into your life on a regular basis, but if you use them on a regular basis, you will find that some of those obstacles will disappear. If you've missed some of the instructions on the spiritual disciplines, go to our website because you can get caught up there pretty easily. Today, we're going to talk about the spiritual discipline of solitude. Solitude brings up, in my mind, the memories of watching Superman movies and the Fortress of Solitude when I was a kid. And yet today, we don't want to think along the lines of the things that we had in our childhood or misconceptions about solitude. We want to think about what the Bible has to say about solitude. The world wants us to think about solitude in different ways. If you think about solitude in the general discussions that you've had with people, you think of things like hermits living out in the middle of nowhere, or you think about mental health issues such as people who live under bridges and are homeless. And some of the things that mental health people will tell us is that solitude can be good or bad depending on the situation that a person finds themselves in. However, we want to look at what the Bible talks about today. And so let's get an example of what one particular person had in regards to solitude that we can learn from. Let's look at the life of Elijah in 1 Kings 18. He was interested in trying to challenge the idol-worshiping people of the land that were led by the King Ahab and Queen Jezebel characters. And as you remember, he presented a challenge that said, if Baal is greater, let him bring forth fire upon the altar and consume what is on the altar. And if God is greater, let him bring forth fire. As you remember, Elijah was victorious in this situation, but after this was all done, he went off to a place that was very far away. And Mount Horeb was where he found a cave that he stayed in. At this particular time, God called to him and says, "Why are you here, Elijah? Why are you staying here? I have work for you to do," is what he was implying. And Elijah didn't answer God. And so God sent a strong wind, but God's voice wasn't in the wind. And then he sent a strong earthquake, but God wasn't in the earthquake either. Then he sent a fire, but God's voice wasn't in the fire. Finally, God's voice was heard in a whispering type voice. And he asked the question again, "What are you doing here, Elijah? Don't you know that I need to be heard by the people?" So Elijah has a new mission that he presents himself with as he goes forth to serve his God. What lessons can we learn from this situation in Elijah's life that might be worthwhile for us to consider as we take solitude as a discipline today? Jesus explains things about the time of solitude in our life when we need to get in contact with our Father and to know what it is that we have to do in regards to the things of this life that are most pleasing to God. So when we look at solitude, we want to consider the things that would most be advantage to those who we can serve. God tells us that the least among us are the greatest in the kingdom of God. Those are the ones we need to serve. So when we're in a period of solitude, think along the lines of, who can I serve that is considered the least individual that might be worth or even considered as being worthy of being served? The church would like you to take the time of solitude at least for one period every 90 days, 3 to 4 hours at a time, and consider what you can do in regards to your satisfying this association with God and His mission for your life, and how to serve the least among us that need your service. And we ask that you consider this on a regular basis, get permission from your family for the time off, and use the handout that you have in the bulletin to consider how to best apply this solitude in your life. Thank you for considering this particular spiritual discipline of solitude.